ला के उन्हां दा जिहड़ा CCTV सर्विलेंस तो सानू पहले क्लूज मिले सीगे उसनों असीं साइंटिफिक तरीके नाल डेवलप किया। जिहड़ी टैक्नीकल एनालिसिस दे विच जिहड़े टैलीफोन दे लोकेशन वगैरह होंदे आ वो असीं तीनों इंसीडेंट्स दे कन्फर्म कर ले इन्हां दी प्रेजेंस जिहड़ी हैगी ते जिहड़ा पहला जिहड़ी IED सी वो असैंबल होई सीगी गुरु रामदास सराय दे विच। इस दे विच तीन जिहड़े हैगे कंटेनर सीगे, दो जिहड़े कैन सीगे एनर्जी ड्रिंक दे जिहड़े हेल दे ते एक मैटैलिक टिफिन सीगा। तीन कंटेनर्स दे विच तकरीबन 200 ग्राम एक्सप्लोसिव सी जिहड़ा फायर क्रैकर्स बनाने नूं यूज़ किया जाता है। उस दे विच प्लेस करके एक पॉलीथीन बैग दे विच तीनों कंटेनर प्लेस किए गए सीगे ते जिहड़ी पार्किंग हैगी हैरीटेज पार्किंग बिल्डिंग ਉਹਦੇ रूफ टॉप ਤੇ आज़ाद वीर ने इकल्ले जाके ਉੱਥੋਂ रोप डैंगल करती ਸੀਗੀ ਤੇ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਇਹ 6 ਮਈ ਨੂੰ 11:25 PM ਤੇ ਐਕਸਪਲੋਜਨ ਹੋਇਆ ਸੀ। ਆਜ਼ਾਦ ਵੀਰ ਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਇਸ ਮੋਡਿਊਲ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਲੱਗਿਆ ਸੀਗਾ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੇ ਇਸ ਐਕਸ਼ਨ ਦਾ ਇੰਪੈਕਟ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਇਆ। देयरफॉर ਇਹ ਦੂਜਾ ਐਕਸਪਲੋਸਿਵ ਜਿਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਦੋ ਮੈਟੈਲਿਕ ਕੌਲੀਆਂ ਸੀ। ਵੀ ਵਿਲ ਬੀ ਰਿਲੀਜ਼ਿੰਗ ਸਮ ਪਿਕਚਰਸ ਤੇ ਇਨਫੈਕਟ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਹਾਲੇ ਵੀ ਵਿਲ ਬੀ ਐਗਜ਼ਾਮਿਨਿੰਗ देयर ਟੈਲੀਫੋਨਸ ਐਂਡ ਅਦਰ ਡਿਵਾਈਸਿਸ ਸੀਜ਼ਡ ਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਟੈਲੀਫੋਨ ਤੋਂ ਪਿਕ ਰਿਲੀਜ਼ ਹੋਈ ਜਿਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹ ਮੈਟੈਲਿਕ ਕੌਲੀਆਂ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜੋੜ ਕੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਐਕਸਪਲੋਜਨ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸੈਕੰਡ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸੀ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਉੱਥੇ ਹੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਰਾਮਦਾਸ ਸਰਾਏ ਦੇ ਬਾਥਰੂਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੈਂਬਲ ਹੋਇਆ ਸੀਗਾ ਤਕਰੀਬਨ 10:30 ਵਜੇ ਰਾਤ 7 ਮਈ ਨੂੰ ਤੇ ਸਵੇਰੇ अर्ਲੀ ਮਾਰਨਿੰਗ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇਹਨੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ 4 ਵਜੇ ਦੇ ਕਰੀਬ IED ਉੱਥੋਂ ਹੈਂਗ ਕਰਤਾ ਸੀ ਜਿਹੜਾ 6:15 ਵਜੇ ਐਕਸਪਲੋਜਨ ਹੋਇਆ ਸੀਗਾ। ਜਿਹੜਾ ਥਰਡ ਐਕਸਪਲੋਜਨ ਸੀਗਾ ਇਸ ਰਾਤ ਹੀ ਹੋਇਆ ਸੀਗਾ 12:10 ਤੇ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਬਾਅਦ CCTV ਤੋਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਲਾਈਵ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਫੁਟੇਜ ਮਿਲੀ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਟਰੈਕ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਤੇ SGPC ਦੇ ਸਹਿਯੋਗ ਨਾਲ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਅਰੈਸਟ ਕੀਤਾ ਤੇ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਪੂਰੀ ਇਨ ਡੈਪਥ ਸਾਇੰਟਿਫਿਕ ਇਨਵੈਸਟੀਗੇਸ਼ਨ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਫੋਰੈਂਸਿਕ ਟੀਮਸ ਦੀ ਹੈਲਪ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਦੂਜੇ ਏਜੰਸੀਜ਼ ਦੀ ਵੀ ਹੈਲਪ ਅਸੀਂ ਲੈ ਰਹੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਡਿਵਾਈਸਿਸ ਐਗਜ਼ਾਮਿਨ ਕਰਕੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਸ ਪੂਰੀ ਇਨ ਡੈਪਥ ਇਨਵੈਸਟੀਗੇਸ਼ਨ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਕਿ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਕਿਨ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਲਿੰਕ ਸੀਗੇ, ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਐਸੋਸੀਏਟਸ ਕਿਹੜੇ ਸੀਗੇ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਐਂਡ ਅਬਰੋਡ ਐਂਡ ਵੀ ਵਿਲ ਅਨਵੇਲ ਦੀ ਐਂਟਾਇਰ ਕਨਸਪੀਰੇਸੀ ਬਿਹਾਈਂਡ ਦਿਸ ਇੰਸੀਡੈਂਟ। ਤੇ ਇਹ ਪਹਿਲਾ ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਥਰੂ ਹੈਗਾ। 5 ਗ੍ਰਿਫਤਾਰੀਆਂ ਹੋਈਆਂ। ਮੈਂ CP ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਹਾ ਸੀਗਾ ਕਿ ਇੱਕ SIT ਬਣਾ ਕੇ SIT इसको इन्वेस्टिगेट करेगी। पंजाब पुलिस ने ये अमृतसर में जो हाल के दिनों में जो 3 लो इंटेंसिटी एक्सप्लोजन्स हुए थे उन्हें वर्कआउट कर लिया है और 5 इसमें गिरफ्तारियां हुई हैं अमृतसर पुलिस की तरफ से। आज़ाद वीर सिंह, अमरीक सिंह, साहिब सिंह एलियास साबा, हरजीत सिंह और धर्मेंद्र सिंह। इसमें प्रिलिमिनरी इन्वेस्टिगेशन में रोल आज़ाद वीर सिंह और अमरीक सिंह का पाया गया है जो इसमें जिन्होंने IED असेंबल करी और IED एक्सप्लोड करी। साहिब सिंह साबा, हरजीत सिंह और धर्मेंद्र सिंह का रोल सोर्सिंग एक्सप्लोसिव्स जो है वो इन्होंने प्रोवाइड किए एक चेन के थ्रू। आज़ाद वीर सिंह को धर्मेंद्र सिंह ने हैंड ओवर किया, उसे हरजीत सिंह से मिला, हरजीत सिंह को साहिब सिंह ने दिया था। साहिब सिंह के पास लाइसेंस्ड एजेंसी है, एक्सप्लोसिव्स ये ऑपरेट करते अनगढ़ इलाके में। रिकवरी इनसे 1.1 kg मिक्सचर ऑफ क्लोरेट्स एंड ब्रोमाइड्स हुए हैं। इनकी टेस्टिंग केमिकल टेस्टिंग कराएंगे और ये लो ग्रेड एक्सप्लोसिव्स हैं जो आमतौर पे फायर क्रैकर्स में इस्तेमाल किए जाते हैं। मैं SGPC टास्क फोर्स और SGPC के सहयोग के लिए उनको धन्यवाद देता हूं और रिकॉर्ड पे प्लेस करता हूं। मैंने SGPC के प्रधान जी से बात करके उनका धन्यवाद भी किया है। तो पुलिस के साथ पूरा सहयोग किया गया। हमने एक साइंटिफिक तरीके से इन्वेस्टिगेशन करी, CCTV फुटेज, टेक्निकल इन्वेस्टिगेशन, डेटा से हमने इनकी प्रेजेंस इस्टेब्लिश कर ली है और इसकी हम डीप इन्वेस्टिगेशन करेंगे। इनके लिंकेजेस जो इनके टेलीफोन फोरेंसिकली एग्जामिन कराएंगे, इनके एसोसिएट्स के बारे में पता करेंगे इंडिया या अब्रॉड में और इसको सारे एंगल्स को हम एक SIT कॉन्स्टिट्यूट करके इसकी इन्वेस्टिगेशन करेंगे। पंजाब पुलिस हैज़ सक्सेसफुली वर्कड आउट द केसेस ऑफ एक्सप्लोजन्स which took place in Golden Temple recently and we have arrested 5 persons. They include Azad Veer Singh, Amrik Singh, the main perpetrators of the incident, and the 3 people who supplied and sourced the explosives, Sahib Singh, Harjeet Singh and Dharmender Singh. Azad Veer Singh was provided the explosives by Dharmender Singh, who was provided by Harjeet Singh, and it was actually sourced from Sahib Singh Saba. 1.1 kg low-intensity explosives have been recovered. These include a mixture of chlorades and bromides, which are normally used in firecrackers. I place on record the appreciable role played by SGPC Task Force and SGPC, and we have thanked the SGPC President for the cooperation. The investigation will be carried out in a scientific manner. The CCTV, in fact, it was scientific investigation which led to a breakthrough by examining the CCTV footage, and then we were able to identify and track the perpetrator through technical means. And we will investigate the entire deep-rooted conspiracy behind this, who are the associates of the people arrested in India and abroad, and get to the bottom of it. The IED, which was the first IED, was assembled in the bathroom of Guru Ramdas Sarai on 6th. It constituted about 200 grams of explosives, which are used for firecracker making, in 2 energy drink cans with about 10-12 stones of bajri. And a metallic tiffin was also filled with the same explosive material, and all these 3 containers were placed in a polythene bag, and Azadveer had gone to the rooftop of Heritage Parking building, and then he hung the polythene bag with the help of a rope at around 11 p.m. on 6th of May, and the first explosion had taken place at 11:25 p.m. The second IED was also assembled by using 2 metallic bowls, which were then joined together, and it was again in the bathroom of Guru Ramdas Sarai on the 7th May, and it was placed on the top of the Heritage Parking building at around 4:30 in the morning on 8th of May, where it exploded at 6:15 in the morning.
So that is, of course, the DGP Punjab, Gaurav Yadav, who is in fact sharing details of the case that he says that the police has cracked of low-intensity blasts in the vicinity of the Golden Temple. 5 persons have been arrested in the case.
Through technical means, we were able to establish.
Big breaking news that's coming in right now. MK Stalin strips Tyagarajan of his finance ministry portfolio. Big fallout of the audio tape leak by BJP. That's the question that is to be asked. The Mantri has been shunted out to the IT ministry, from finance to IT now. Audio tape, in fact, was of PTR allegedly speaking of Stalin-kin corruption. Finance Minister Palanivel Tyagarajan is to be moved to Information and Technology and Digital Services. Industries Minister Tangam Tenerasu is getting the Finance Ministry. Newly inducted Minister TRB Raja made the Industries Minister. Mano Thangarajan moved from IT to Dairy Development and Animal Husbandry. So a lot of reshuffle there as far as the State Cabinet of Tamil Nadu is concerned. But what stands out is that PTR, as he's known, Tyagarajan, who held the Finance Ministry, has been shunted out of the Finance Ministry and given the IT Ministry. So from a very high-profile portfolio like Finance, he, in fact, will now hold charge of the IT Ministry. Is this a fallout of the audio tape leak by the BJP? Remember that the state BJP had, in fact, released a purported audio conversation of P. Tyagarajan, where he was basically saying that Stalin's family, his son-in-law, were involved in corruption. There was never a clarification that came from the former finance minister of the state, but now it seems that MK Stalin has cracked the whip. Shilpa Nair is joining us live at the moment. Shilpa, is this a fallout of the audio tape leak purportedly that the BJP had put out in the public domain?
Well, Paulami, the audio leak or the audio files that the BJP had released definitely caused a big embarrassment for the DMK. But that, of course, yes, it is one of the reasons, but that is not the only reason for PTR to be moved out of Finance Ministry, is what we are being told by the DMK sources. In fact, this reshuffle was expected to happen in the month of March itself, but it got delayed. And even at that point, there was talk that Palanivel Tyagarajan could be moved out of the Finance Ministry and he could be given some other ministry. and this time around the government has released the list, and PTR has been moved from finance and he's now been made the Minister for Information Technology and Digital Services. So that is a new portfolio that PTR has got. Thangam Tenarsa, who's the Industries Minister, will be the new Finance Minister for Tamil Nadu. Now, what we're given to understand from DMK party sources is that several senior party leaders were upset with the manner in which the style of functioning of PTR, and they had complained with Chief Minister M.K. Stalin. So that is the reason why this possibility of a reshuffle was being discussed since March itself. The audio controversy, of course, the audio file controversy was a big embarrassment, even though PTR had denied saying anything like that in those audio files. He was allegedly accused of speaking badly about the first family of the DMK, and Palanivel Tyagarajan, of course, said that the audio was fabricated, and in fact the Chief Minister also said that some political forces are doing this for their cheap publicity, and he also said that he did not wish to comment more on that. But clearly, many are seeing this reshuffle of the cabinet as a fallout of that audio clip controversy. But we are, of course, being given to understand from DMK that this is something that they've been discussing for a while now. It's not like PTR has been dropped from the cabinet. Remember, there's been also a demand from some sections of the leaders within the DMK to drop PTR from the cabinet, but that did not happen. It was only TRB Raja who was inducted into the cabinet. TRB Raja is the son of DMK MP TR Balu, and he's also a three-time MLA and the IT wing chief of the DMK, and he has now been given the Industries Ministry. So clearly a big reshuffle as far as the Tamil Nadu government is concerned, and also a lot of questions being raised about the DMK's move to shift PTR from the Finance Ministry, because PTR is someone who was seen as a very competent minister, and this is clearly not based on performance, because going by performance, even the Chief Minister and many others have appreciated the manner in which PTR has been working as the Finance Minister of Tamil Nadu. Several big schemes being brought in. He also managed to bring down the fiscal deficit, revenue deficit, and all of that. So clearly, performance was not an indicator. But this.
So if performance was not an indicator, and this was simply on the basis of working style, possibly, as some complained, then why just move him from such a heavy portfolio like finance to IT? Shilpa, stay on with us. In fact, while we're talking about PTR, these are the audio tapes that were leaked by the BJP claiming that this is PTR speaking against Stalin family corruption.
I've been a long time proponent of one man, one post from the day I entered politics. I said what I like about the BJP, who looks after the party, who looks after the people, separate those, right? Here every district secretary wants to be MLA and minister. Who looks after the party, who looks after the party? Oh, it's easier to do money management. They've got a system where they're taking the bulk of the spoils. The party, which is CM son and son-in-law. Ask them to make the financing. Right? So I decided after watching this for 8 months, this is not a sustainable model. The great luxury for me, if I put my papers in the short term, I get out before the shit starts blowing up in their face. And I have the kind of, cleanliness of my conscience. That I did not have to, I gave up the fight too early. I don't have to say. I said, I'm no longer the post, it's not my job. Somebody did it,
My colleague Shilpa Nair continues to be live with us. Shilpa, we do know that the Chief Minister did at some point, after the audio tapes were leaked by the BJP, speak out about this issue, ending speculation at that point of time that PTR would be dropped from the cabinet. But is all well and all settled between Stalin, the Chief Minister, and PTR?
What we're going to understand from our sources in the DMK is that there is, the first family of the DMK is definitely very upset with the audio files, this controversy, because clearly, in the audio, what one can hear is PTR talking about the first family of the DMK, saying that they have amassed wealth. But PTR, of course, remember, he has put out at least 2 statements in this regard. He has completely denied these allegations. He said the audio is fabricated and it was, machine generated is what PTR, of course, said. And he said any any attempt to divide the DMK will not succeed, and that is precisely what the Chief Minister has also maintained, because there was pressure on the Chief Minister to drop PTR from the cabinet, but that did not happen because that would have sent out a wrong signal to everyone in the state, because then it could have been assumed or it could have been perceived as an admission of guilt, and that is the reason why.
Just hold on. Mr. Saravanan of the DMK is joining us over the phone line right now. Sir, good morning to you. There is a lot of speculation that the fact that Mr. Thiagarajan has now been given the IT ministry portfolio from finance. This is possibly a fallout of the audio tapes that were leaked by the BJP, where he seemingly and purportedly was speaking about corruption within the first family of the DMK.
See, this is a routine cabinet reject. There is nothing more to it. To improve administrative efficiency, the government has done this. The DMK government has done this. See, the BJP, as usual, is trying to read so many things into this reject. This happens everywhere. This happens with the union government. This happens with every other government. So, what is
this is to improve efficiency? Are you saying that PTR was not efficient in his job as finance minister of the state?
No, that is what you are saying. We are saying to ensure that ensure that everything goes according to the ministry. The government has a plan. Who will be better suited at what place? After a stint, this is common everywhere. There is nothing more to read into this.
But he was considered, the opinion, of course, as far as PTR goes, was that he was doing a very good job. So why remove him from such a prestigious portfolio like finance and put him in charge of IT? He has an investment banking background as well. He was very well suited for the portfolio he was already handling for the past 2 years.
Probably, if the government thinks that IT industry needs such a great man there, so that the IT thing will improve. See, that's why this is all left to the wisdom of the Chief Minister, wisdom of the party, and wisdom of who is better placed at what situation.
Okay.
The BJP, as usual, has got nothing, no axe to grind, nothing to say. So they're just trying to read so many things into all these things.
Okay, so the BJP is trying to read so many things. Mr. Saravanan, thank you so much for speaking to India Today. Mr. Satyan of the AIADMK is joining us over the phone line right now. Are you reading many things into this as well? MK Stalin stripping Thiagarajan of his finance portfolio and shifting him out to handle charge of IT now.
What is there to read too many things when it is pretty much evident? A government which put somebody behind bars for giving out a meme in social media was selectively silent on PTR's audio leak. And they came out in open and say it is doctored. What has stopped them to take the legal route, legal course of action? This action of changing the portfolio proves whatever has said by PTR in the audio tape files were true.
Right.
And this action proves the same.
Right. So this, you believe, is a fallout of the audio tape, sir? Okay, we'll try and reconnect with Mr. Satyan. Narayan Tirupati of the BJP is over the phone line with us as well. Mr. Tirupati, how do you see this very interesting development, cabinet rejig in Tamil Nadu, and very interestingly, PTR stripped of his finance portfolio, given charge of IT?
When Mr. PTR Palanivel Thiagarajan assumed his office, he had spoken that he will bend even the sky. That was what Mr. PTR spoke. Now, he has bent now, and we are very, very clear. There are only two things. Either the government, the Chief Minister should accept that PTR Palanivel Thiagarajan was unfit for the job of, for holding finance portfolio, and he could not succeed anything in bringing up the Tamil Nadu state's economy in the last 2 years. And thus, absolutely, he has failed in managing the finance of the state, or he should accept that because he spoke, because of his leaked audio, he has been shifted. Either of these two, I think the Chief Minister has to clarify.
Mr. Tirupati, the DMK says this is normal. This happens in governments across the country, these rejigs, and this is to improve, and I quote Mr. A. Saravanan, to improve efficiency in government.
While it is a prerogative of the Chief Minister to have his ministers changed from one department to another department, the timing of the change, particularly PTR Palanivel Tyagarajan, the timing of the change is that he has not even given a complaint or he has gone to the court regarding the audio. So it was in cards that Mr. Tyagarajan will be shifted to some other ministry and his strength will be weakened. That is what people said. Now it is very, very clear that the audio which was leaked by PTR or somebody from the party is very sure, and I think the Chief Minister has to answer for this.
Do you think that MK Stalin stopped short of shunting PTR out altogether from the state cabinet because it would then mean an admission almost that the audio tape was authentic?
No, this itself is an admission. It is not necessary that if he has been shunted out of the cabinet, people would have thought. This itself is an admission of the fact that the leaked audio was original. It was PTR's voice. And even a child knows in Tamil Nadu that otherwise, but for this audio, PTR would not have been shifted.
Right. Mr. Tirupati, thank you so much for speaking to India Today. My colleague Shilpa Nair continues to be live with us. Shilpa, of course, the opposition in Tamil Nadu is reading between the lines over here. The timing, they say, of this decision to move PTR out from finance into IT is definitely suspect.
Well, absolutely, Paulami. In fact, no doubt about it. The timing is definitely the reason why many believe that the move to shift PTR from Finance Ministry to IT Ministry is because of these leaked audio tapes. Because even the critics of the DMK government admit that PTR has been a very competent minister, very efficient minister. He's recognized internationally on global stages. He's recognized the contributions made by Tamil Nadu government. All of this is being recognized. He's the face of the DMK globally as well. So there is no doubt about his performance as a finance minister. So the only reason two, three reasons that weighed in the mind of the Chief Minister. One, of course, is the audio files or the controversy around it, which has caused a huge political embarrassment for the DMK. Second, of course, several top ministers in the government, ministers who are extremely close to MK Stalin, were upset in the manner in which PTR was functioning. Because
so it could be between the audio tapes and the working style of PTR that he possibly has been shunted from finance into IT. Shilpa, thank you so much for joining us. We're slipping into a very short break. Stay tuned. News and updates will continue on the other side.
You are watching India Today.
The balance sheet issues that we had at one point, Dr. Panagaria, and that had an impact across lenders and borrowers, are broadly behind us. There may be some company-specific stress, but that's a micro matter really. And like you said, the monetary and fiscal stimulus, at least by analysis post-COVID, have been responsible. How would you describe India's state of the economy at this point of time?
Yes. No, I remain upbeat. I have been upbeat and I remain upbeat precisely because, I'll say macro, we have handled incredibly well. All congratulations to both the finance and the Reserve Bank. Through COVID, etc., all kinds of pressures came to print more money and all. We avoided that, and we are reaping the fruits of what we did well. We have to stay course on that front. There is no question. My worry, and overall, I think, GDP growth this year, we are ending with 7%, maybe 7.1%. And I think we'll continue roughly on that path in the years to come. My sort of worry in India actually remains on micro side. I think, macro, we have always, even when you go back to the license permit Raj era and all, broadly except for small episodes or, short episodes of irresponsible behavior, which, had led to the 1991 crisis, also balance payments crisis. We always ran macro very conservatively, very responsibly. Where we have done very badly is the micro. Now we started improving this micro side of it, and we've been doing that. But I think we need to do a bit more.
Can there ever be an alternate to a cigarette? Can smoking tobacco be replaced? The opinion is divided right in the middle with the emergence of e-cigarettes and vapes. And how safe or unsafe they are is actually a raging debate.
Several models available in the market, none of which are produced in India.
In India, e-cigarettes got banned in September 2019.
None of which are produced in India.
The Union Cabinet issued an ordinance banning electronic nicotine delivery systems or ENDS. In its defense, the government said the move was to protect vulnerable youngsters from the new form of possible addiction, an assumption that's turning into devil's truth. But is banning a solution? And is the ban even effective? The pro-vape lobby in India has its own say.
A weird kind of a ban where use and possession is not banned, but sales and purchase and storing for the intentions of sale is banned. So I'm a volunteer with the Association of Vapers India, and I've been working with them since 2018 beginning. And we do it because this product helped us, saved us from a greater evil, and we want to just help others also make this transition. A person smokes for the nicotine but dies because of the consequence and the hazardous residues which are present in cigarettes, which are eliminated in electronic cigarettes. You're still getting your nicotine, but you're getting it much cleaner, purer. It's like having a nicotine gum. Why aren't nicotine gums banned? Because the person needs nicotine. He's chewing that gum and getting that nicotine. Instead of chewing that gum, if he puts in a vape mod to his mouth and inhales that nicotine in a vapor form, it's the same thing. COVID taught us harm reduction. We would wear a mask. Others would wear a mask. That did not guarantee COVID will not spread, but it reduced the probability of it spreading. It's the same thing. Switching to vaping does not guarantee you'll have a very long, healthy life, but you'll have a healthier, longer life than smoking tobacco.
Vaping involves using a device that vaporizes a nicotine-containing liquid that the user inhales. It is not without a risk. The evidence for vaping does not say that. It merely says cigarette smokers who switch would suffer from far fewer negative effects and live relatively longer, healthier lives. Vape was introduced as a harm reduction product in other countries, thus prompting less amount of study and research in the direction of impact of excessive consumption of ENDS products. In countries such as the UK, vaping is advised to smokers. The National Health Service in the UK says most smokers are misinformed about the lower risks of vaping compared to smoking. What about India, where the ban is ineffective? Vape, which is supposed to be a cessation tool, is now a trend that even kids feel proud to be following.
are watching India Today.
News coming in right now. It's Judgment Day in the Delhi versus the LG Dangal case. Any time now. Delhi elected government versus the Lieutenant Governor after fierce LG versus Kejriwal Sarkar war verdict on Delhi centre face-off shortly after bitter AAP LG feud in Delhi. Shortly, the Supreme Court to decide who is the Lika Dada 5-judge bench to choose Vicious War's winner. Our reporters are in fact joining us live at the moment. They're standing by for the proceedings of the Supreme Court to begin at the moment. Anisha Mathur, Nalini Sharma and Ashutosh are joining us this morning. Anisha, I'll come across to you first because I'm sure you quickly would want to tune into what happens in the Supreme Court. Just succinctly tell us, what are we expecting right now in that first pronouncement of judgment that we are standing by for?
Well, Paulamy, as we speak, the verdict has begun. The Chief Justice has now started reading out the verdict. He is reading out the issue that had come before the court, the questions that had arisen before the court with regard to the 2018 dispute, the exercise of power by the MHA over services. Now, the Chief Justice is saying that there's a limited issue for consideration of this bench with regard to legislative powers of the centre and the Delhi government on control of the services, which basically means that who exactly has the legislative control over services. And that is the legal technicality that the judgment is going to be pronouncing. And as I speak, the Chief Justice is speaking out his verdict even as we speak. He's going into the issues raised in the 2018 verdict.
Anisha, let's listen in. Let's listen in because this is live on camera. Let's tune in to what's happening into the Supreme Court right now.
We are unable to agree with the view of Justice Bhushan in the 2019 split verdict. As indicated previously, the majority decision in the 2018 Constitution Bench judgment rendered a broad interpretation of Article 239AA3A to provide NCTD with vast executive and co-extensive legislative powers except in the excluded subjects. A combined reading of the majority opinion and the concurring opinions of Justice Chandrachud and Justice Bhushan indicates that the phrase "insofar as any such matter is applicable to union territories" does not restrict the legislative powers of NCTD. While the 2018 Constitution Bench judgment provides sufficient clarity on the interpretation of the phrase "insofar as any such matter is applicable to union territories," we find it necessary to deal with the arguments made by the Union of India that the phrase must be read in a restricted manner to limit the legislative power of NCTD on certain subjects in addition to already excluded subjects in List 2. Article 239AA3A confers legislative power to the NCTD. However, it does not confer legislative power to NCTD over all entries in List 2. Article 239AA3 provides multiple safeguards to ensure that the interest of the Union of India is preserved. First, Subclause A of Clause 3 removes 3 entries in List 2 from the legislative domain of NCTD. It provides that NCTD shall not have the power to enact laws on matters with respect to entries 1, 2, and 18 of the state list, and entries 64, 65, and 66 of that list insofar as they relate to the said entries 1, 2, and 18. Second, Subclause B of Clause 3 clarifies that Parliament has the power to legislate on any matter for a union territory, including on subjects with respect to which NCTD has legislative power under Article 239AA3A. In other words, Parliament has a plenary power to legislate on a subject in any of the 3 lists of the 7th schedule for NCTD. Third, it provides that where there is a repugnancy between a law enacted by the Legislative Assembly of NCTD and a law enacted by Parliament, the latter will prevail. The law enacted by the Legislative Assembly shall, to the extent of the repugnancy, be void. Unlike Article 254, which provides for the overriding power of Parliament only on subjects in the concurrent list, Parliament has overriding power in relation to the NCTD over subjects in both List 2 and List 3. Fourth, the second proviso to Article 239AAC provides that Parliament may enact at any time any law with respect to the same matter by including a law adding to, amending, varying, or repealing the law so made by the Legislative Assembly. Fifth, under 239AA7A, Parliament may by law make provisions for giving effect to or supplementing the provisions in the foregoing clauses of 239AA and for all matters incidental and consequential thereto. The article stipulates that such law shall not be deemed to be an amendment of the Constitution for the purposes of Article 368, which deals with the power and procedure to amend the Constitution. Thus, Article 239AA3 balances between the interests of NCTD and the Union of India. Article 239AA expressly excludes entries 1, 2, and 18 of List 2 from the ambit of the legislative competence of the Legislative Assembly. 239AA also stipulates that the legislative power of NCTD is excluded with respect to entries 64, 65, and 66 of List 2, insofar as they relate to entries 1, 2, and 18. Entry 1 deals with public order, entry 2 deals with police, and entry 18 deals with land. When we explain the entries, thus, the exclusion of entries 64, 65, and 66 to the extent that it relates to entries 1, 2, and 18 from the legislative competence of NCTD indicates that the governance structure envisaged in Article 239AA for NCTD was only to exclude specific entries from its legislative competence. To read the phrase insofar as such matter is applicable to the Union Territories as introducing an implied exclusion of the legislative powers of NCTD with respect to certain other entries would be contrary to the plain meaning of the provision. Article 239AA establishes the Legislative Assembly for NCTD. The seats in the Legislative Assembly are filled by a direct election from the constituencies of NCTD. The Legislative Assembly of NCTD embodies the constitutional principle of a representative democracy similar to the Legislative Assembly of the state. The members of the Legislative Assembly of the NCTD are selected by the electorate of Delhi to represent their interests. Article 239AA must be interpreted to further the principle of representative democracy. To interpret the phrase insofar as any such matter is applicable to Union Territories in a restrictive manner would limit the legislative power of the elected members of the Assembly. The members of the Legislative Assembly have been chosen by the electorate to act in their stead. Thus, the legislative competence of NCTD must be interpreted to give full impetus to the will of the electorate. Then page 53. The principles of democracy and federalism are essential features of our constitution and form a part of the basic structure. Federalism in a multicultural, multi-religious, multi-ethnic, and multilinguistic country like India ensures the representation of diverse interests. It is a means to reconcile the desire of commonality along with the desire for autonomy and accommodate diverse needs in a pluralistic society. Recognizing regional aspirations strengthens the unity of the country and embodies the spirit of democracy. Thus, in any federal constitution, at a minimum, there is a dual polity, that is, two sets of government operate, one at the level of the national government and the second at the level of the regional federal units. These dual sets of government, elected by we the people in two separate electoral processes, is a dual manifestation of the public will. The priorities of these two sets of government, which manifest in a federal system, are not just bound to be different, but are intended to be different. While NCTD is not a full-fledged state, its legislative assembly is constitutionally entrusted with the power to legislate upon the subjects in the state and list and concurrent lists. It is not a state under the first schedule to the Constitution, yet it is conferred with power to legislate upon subjects in List 2 and 3 to give effect to the aspirations of the people of NCTD. It has a democratically elected government which is accountable to the people of NCTD. Under the constitutional scheme, NCTD was given legislative power which, though limited in many aspects, is similar to states. In that sense, with the addition of Article 239AA, the Constitution created a federal model with the Union of India at the center and the NCTD at the regional level. This is the asymmetric federal model adopted for NCTD. While NCTD remains a union territory, the unique constitutional status conferred upon it makes it a federal entity for the purpose of understanding the relationship between the Union and the NCTD. A combined reading of Articles 73 and 162 of the Constitution indicates that the Union has exclusive executive power over entries in List 1. the states have exclusive executive power over entries in List 2. With respect to List 3, that is a concurrent list, the Union shall have executive power only if provided by the Constitution or by a law of Parliament. The states shall have executive power over the entries in List 3. However, if a central legislation or a provision of the Constitution confers executive power to the Union with respect to a List 3 subject, then the executive power of the state shall be subject to such law or provision. The executive power of the Union in a state over matters on which both states and the Union of India can legislate, that is the concurrent list, is limited to ensure that the governance of the states is not taken over by the Union. This would completely abrogate the federal system of governance and the principle of representative democracy. It is with this objective in mind that the members of the Constituent Assembly thought it fit to limit the executive power of the Union in a state over matters on which the state legislature also has legislative competence. The principle in Articles 73 and 162 would equally apply to the scope of executive power over matters which are within the legislative competence of both the Union and the GNCTD. This is because the objective of the provisions is to limit the executive power of the Union in the territorial limits where there is an elected government of a federal unit. Both Parliament and the legislature of NCTD have legislative competence over List 2 and List 3. For the purposes of NCTD, both List 2 and List 3 are concurrent lists. Thus, the delimitation of executive power between Parliament and the government of NCTD with respect to entries in List 2 and List 3 are guided by these principles. Both Parliament and the legislature of the NCTD have the power to enact laws with respect to List 2, subject to the caveat that entries 1, 2, and 18, and entries 64, 65, and 66, inasmuch as they relate to entries 1, 2, and 18, are carved out of the domain of the Legislative Assembly of GNCTD and List 3. The executive power of NCTD shall extend to all entries in List 2 and List 3, other than those entries which are expressly excluded in Article 239 AA3. Such power shall be subject to the executive power of the Union through the Lieutenant Governor only when the Union has been granted such power by the Constitution or a law of Parliament. Therefore, the executive power of NCTD in the absence of a law by Parliament shall extend to all subjects on which it has power to legislate. It was held
So that is, of course, the Chief Justice of India reading out the unanimous verdict as far as the Delhi government versus LG war is concerned. Let's go across to our reporters who are in fact tracking all those developments, can probably break down the legalese for us. Nalini, what do you understand from so far in terms of what the CJI has said?
Well, Paulami, the CJI is essentially talking about the extent of powers that both the centre as well as the Delhi government have when it comes to the control of the national capital. Now, what the Supreme Court is elaborating at this point is that Delhi has acquired a special status due to the fact that it is the capital of India, which means that it is governed and controlled both by the Delhi government as well as the central government. And at the same time, the important aspect that the Supreme Court is highlighting is that both of these are democratically elected governments, so they are answerable to the people of Delhi at the end of the day. That's precisely what the CJI has said, is that democratically elected governments are answerable to the people of Delhi. But at the same time, they're also going into the constitutional aspects about how the centre has control over three specific aspects, which are land, law and order, which includes the police, as well as the law and order, land and police. That centre has exclusive control over when it comes to the national capital. But in all other aspects, it is the Delhi government that has the power to legislate and administrate the laws that are pertaining to how the capital should function. So in pursuance to that, what the CJI is saying is that it's a federal structure, and all of these issues that are arising out of the fact that it's a dual control in the national capital. What the Supreme Court said right now is that the real power of administration must reside in the elected arm of the state. So although the Supreme Court has clarified is that if there is a clash between a central law and a state law, the central law will prevail. But at the same time, they are saying that the real power of administration must reside in the elected arm of the state, which is a very important breaking coming in from the Supreme Court. They've also said that the term administration can't be understood as entire administration of the Delhi government. Otherwise, the purpose of the democratically elected government in the state will be diluted. So it seems that the Delhi government's powers regarding the control over Delhi are being elaborated on by the Supreme Court, where they are saying that it's a democratically elected government and the powers of the state government cannot be diluted despite the fact that it is a national capital. The Supreme Court is also saying that the principle underlying the chain of governance will be diluted if the powers of the Delhi government are allowed to be diluted. The administration cannot be understood as the entire administration of the GNCTD, otherwise the power of the elected government will be diluted. The big breaking news coming in, follow me right now, is that the Supreme Court has said that there is a principle of collective responsibility which includes the officers, and if the officers feel that they are insulated, it will affect their performance. The officers being spoken about are the civil servants over who the centre and the Delhi government have been fighting over, the control of which have been fighting over in the Supreme Court. The pronouncement is underway, and any time now we can expect exactly which way the verdict is going.
Okay, Anisha is bringing us that big breaking news at the moment. The Supreme Court has said principle of collective responsibility includes officers. If officers feel they are insulated, it will affect performance. Anisha Mathur is joining us live at the moment. Anisha, break that down for us. That's a big piece of breaking information that you're bringing to our viewers at the moment.
Well, breaking news here, Polami, the big order from the court that GNCTD ought to have control over services except for the subjects which are expressly excluded, which means that apart from land, police and law and order, GNCTD ought to have control of services. It's a big win for the Aam Aadmi Party government, which is being read out by the Supreme Court right now. However, there are certain clarifications that are being made by the court that public order, police and land, the services that are there will be excluded from the Delhi government, but the Indian administrative services required for the administration of policies, day-to-day administration of the region will lie with the NCTD. I'm bringing you
Anisha, just break. Yes, absolutely. Anisha, just simplify that for us. Does this mean that the Delhi government, the elected government of Delhi, will have control over the transfers and the postings of civil servants?
Well, the Supreme Court, Polami, as I speak, is still reading out the verdict in this particular judgment. It is very, very crucial that what the court has said, that we reiterate that in the light of Article 2000 AA and the 2018 Constitutional Bench judgment, the LG is bound by the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers, which is the elected government of the NCTD, in subjects which are within the state list and the concurrent list. To simply put, it means that outside of public order, police and land, the LG has to listen to and work with the aid and advice of the elected government of Delhi, which is a big win today for the government of Delhi, because the court has specifically said that day-to-day administration, administrative services will be under the control of the elected government. And as I said, Polami, the Chief Justice is still speaking. What the court is saying is that in view of the discussion, our conclusion is that there is no homogeneous class of union territories in India. NCTD is not similar to other union territories. It has been given a specific separate class. NCTD has been given a class apart from other union territories under the constitution itself. The Legislative Assembly of the government of Delhi, of the elected government in Delhi, the Legislative Assembly does have the power to pass laws under list 2 and list 3, which also means that the executive government, that is the elected government of Delhi, does have the power to control all the subjects under list 2 and list 3, except for those where their law is clashing with the laws passed by the centre. What the court is
Anisha, just hold on. Just hold on for a moment. We will, of course, soon get a reaction from the Aam Aadmi Party. We believe that Saurabh Bhardwaj will be speaking soon. But quickly, Nalini, coming across to you. Just cut through the clutter for us. Give us the headline.
Well, Paulami, it is a win for the Delhi government at this point because what the Supreme Court has said that except for the 3 exceptions that are already mentioned in the Constitution that come under the exclusive control of the centre, which are land, public order and police, except for these 3 criterias, all other aspects regarding the control of administrative services will be under the Delhi government. So it's a judgment essentially in favor of the Delhi government, except for the 3 aspects that are already in control of the centre. So that's what the Supreme Court said. And the main reason behind that is that the Supreme Court said that the state government is a democratically elected government. Yes, Delhi does have a special status of dual authority, but at the same time, the powers of a democratically elected government cannot be diluted. And if these powers are not handed over to the Delhi government to run the administrative services in the state, except for those sections where the centre has exclusive power, then the power of the Delhi government will be diluted. The principle of collective responsibility, which means that the Delhi government and the centre have to work together in tandem with each other